Aloha and welcome to our Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum 2018. We thank you for joining us this evening and wanting to share your hearts so that it gives our people, the people of Hawaii, a perspective of where you're coming from. We'd like to thank the Ōlelo Studios here at Mapunapuna for hosting us. This is the fourth electoral session, so we're very appreciative. Today I have with me our moderator, Mr. Poka Lainui, and our timekeeper, Meleana Kamai. Myself is Lokana Keli Ikoapua. Poka, can you take us on?
Okay, let me also join in thanking all of you for responding to our request that you join us and sharing yourselves, your views, and thank you for being candidates to serve in this public office. Oftentimes we hear from those who are closer to the microphones than many of you have been. And for me, I think it's very unfair in a democratic society where other people are handpicking who can be heard. So in our forum, we're trying to give, especially those voices that we do not often hear from, to be able to express themselves in the ideas, not necessarily selected by general media or those with special interests in the community, but what comes from the people. So what we try to do is bring up questions or issues that are essentially from the grassroots. Some people would say taro roots. Actually, taro no more roots. They get very fine threads. It's the core that we are talking about, the heart of the matter. What we are going to do is ask that you each introduce yourselves for 2 minutes, and then we will begin with asking general questions. And the first question that I will be posing will be dealing with discrimination in Hawaii. And have we already addressed all of the categories of discrimination? And I will expand further on that question of discrimination. But first, why don't we begin an introduction. Mr. Cavallo, if you will begin an introduction of yourself.
Right. Aloha, everyone. My name is Ernest Carvalho, and I decided to get into the race to be a candidate for the governor of Hawaii because a lot needs to happen. Our politicians have forgotten about us. They've only paid special attention to the special interest groups, to the lobbyists, and to the corporations. So no one's been asking the people what are their needs, and we need to take care of the needs of our people. Our people are being priced out of their own homes. So we need to think about how do we stop the mass migration of our people. And some of the ways might be as simple as putting a residency law down, saying that you can't just move to Hawaii with all your money and buy up our lands. We need to stop that from happening. We also need to say how much land you can buy when you come to Hawaii once you've made the requirements. We cannot allow someone to buy all the land to have it for themselves. So these are some of the things that we need to challenge ourselves on. We need to also challenge ourselves on the education of our children. We have let down our children. So we actually need to build up that education by supporting our teachers and getting qualified teachers in. Our teachers are professionals. They should be paid $75,000 a year at least. They shouldn't be working 2 to 3 jobs. We also need to touch on Medicare for all. Every single one has a right to have medical services. No one should have to stress about worrying about going to the doctors. These are some of the issues. And then we need to talk about the Waiʻanae Coastal Valley area. Why are the people in Waiʻanae suffering so much? Why is there a 40% poverty rate out there? Why is meth such a big thing? We need to help our natives, and we need to bring them back home, and we need to put our hands out and bring them back up and lift them back up to where we all belong to. Once again, my name is Ernest Carvalho. Mahalo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Kim?
Thank you very much. Thanks for invitation. This is Dr. Richard Kim, Democrat running for governor. About 4 decades ago, my family moved to Hawaii when I was still a teenager. And without speaking English, I had to work in Waikiki as a busboy at Pacific Beach Hotel, Shogun Restaurant, and Oceanarium. And at the same time, I went to UH because my mom died in Korea before we moved, and my dad died in Mililani right after I came to Hawaii. So I had to work and go to school together at the same time. And then after 4 different universities, moving around. And 12 years of schooling, I got doctorate degree, and where I am right now. And Hawaii has been a center of a melting pot, and with well-balanced demographic representation of each ethnic and racial group in the nation. That's the reason why we can be a role model. And I want to preserve and promote our value and spirit of aloha. That's why I'm running. But we are living in this money-driven society. Okay? Everything is money, money, money. And we tend to focus and follow where the money is. And we tend to become tunnel visioned and think black and white. And more like be negative and see negative on anything or anybody, shouting for more of our rights. And we often don't know why we tend to think in that way. And it is time to realize that it is us, yes, that we have to work within ourselves. We have to work on ourselves. And that's why we need the Hawaii reform. Professional reform first. Okay, I'll stop now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kim. When you say doctor, is it a PhD or MD?
No, I'm a doctor of dental surgery. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Mr. Teruya.
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Aloha, my name is Terrence Teruya, candidate for governor. My current platform is addressing the 27,000 gallons of jet fuel that leaked on our Red Hill that's threatening our drinking water supply. My second platform issue is about rail, that we need to have more accountability for what's going on in rail. And my third priority is making Hawaii a more affordable place to live by reducing certain taxes and by maybe doing away with certain regulations that hurt local people from being able to purchase affordable homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teruya. Jim, aloha, welcome.
Aloha. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to glance down once in a while because I haven't this got memorized, but I'm Jim Brewer. I am with the Green Party, and I say totally, honestly, and frankly up front, if elected, I will stop those forces driving you and yours out of our beloved Hawaii. I'll work just as hard also in making conditions so that those friends and family already driven out can and will gladly come back to Hawaii that is stable, affordable, and respectful of the best of old Hawaii. I and my activist partner, Renee Ng, have worked for, I think, about 40 years together here. We've been active in trying to get housing for the homeless, and I, at one time, was the only member of the Legal Aid Society of Hawaii who wasn't an attorney, and I was invited on because of my work on behalf of the homeless in Hawaii. We kind of go organizing in the community. We have a thing we call CARTS, C-A-R-T-S, Citizen Action Roundtables. And we get people together who have problems like housing or homelessness and whatnot. And the Citizen Action Roundtables, we gather all the facts and then we do something about it. And so, because the problem too is we're going to overcome this problem that our gridlock we find our legislature in. Our legislature, we're going to use carts in the community to basically be the legislature and bring things down to ground. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Thank you. Selena Blackwell. Aloha.
I'm Selena Blackwell, and I was born here on Oahu. I was raised up in Kula on Maui, and brought both my children up on Kauai for the last 20 years. And I was involved in politics for quite some time. Been on a fact-finding mission for about 20 years now. And I served at the university level as student caucus delegate, where we created a board that was autonomous from the rest of the university, followed the BOR. This was during Dobell's time when we brought together the university system under one banner. I also was involved getting my internship with the County Council of Kauai. I learned a lot there. At that time, I did a resolution on processing plants, and at that time, Molokai had a state-of-the-art processing plant, but all the cattle died, and now we have all GMOs there. So it's like a lot has changed. I spent some time there. A lot of things that I found that was an issue there was our charters were so old. So we have people, we needed to get a cost commission and get some of the county councils some raises so that they could do it full time and not just show up for a meeting and not do their field trips, and find out what's really going on. After that, I was actually appointed by both Republican and Democrat mayors as a civil service commissioner in 3 terms and confirmed by council. I spent some time there. I went ahead to Chicago, purchased the NeoGov system. That was from some Croatians. They were in their 20s, but at that time, the commission was always getting people who said, I'm qualified, or that person wasn't qualified, or we never got a call back. And it was real difficult, as far as going in and actually finding out that our people at the county level didn't even have the tools they needed to do their jobs, much less the exams being so outdated. So I worked for an architect, and I think AutoCAD was in for like 5 or 6 years at the time, and we were giving sketching exams. So again, there's a lot of things. I was also vice chairing the Democratic Party for close to 6 or 7 years. And right now I'm running nonpartisan because
Selena,
I like to
thank
work
you
with
very
all
much.
segments of the community. Thank you.
As I had introduced the possible topic at the very beginning, so just to be fair to all of you, because every one of you raised interesting discussion points, and yet I don't want to be unfair with the rest of you because of the possibility of selecting just a few. But one commonality among many of you has been the high cost of living in Hawaii. And when I initiated the conversation, or my aspect of the conversation, I talked to you about discrimination in Hawaii. Hawaii has been a leader in much of the discriminatory areas, the non-discriminatory areas, no discrimination against sex, sexual preferences, race, religion, disabilities. But there seems to be one area that continues to be discriminatory, but we don't pay enough attention to. And that is, given Hawaii's background and the fact of the overthrow and the questionable legality of the present United States system applied to Hawaii. And there's been many debates on both sides of the issue. But you still have a population, especially in the Waiʻanae coast, but in many other places where you have a heavy concentration of Native Hawaiians who say that no, I am not and will not accept U.S. citizenship. I am a Hawaiian national. I want to participate in my society. I want to be able to get a job. I want to be able to get a license. I want to be able to fly interstate. I don't want to be discriminated against. I want to be a full participant. And yet we cannot vote. We cannot hold public office. We cannot even get a legitimate driver's license. And yet we are stopped because of the fact that we are being excluded. We are being marginalized. We are being kept out of the system. I'm not talking about the United States. I'm talking about Hawaii and Hawaii's laws. As governor, what action would you take, or would you take any action to try to bring some sense of equality and non-discrimination against those who feel that they are not U.S. citizens, but they are indeed Hawaii, legitimate Hawaii residents, without needing any excuse for being in Hawaii, to being permitted by the United States government to be in Hawaii? What would your response be should you come across such a proposal? Why don't we start in a reverse order? And if Selena, if you will go first.
Okay, I heard you say overthrow. We're illegally occupied by the U.S., so that's out the door. As far as, I haven't heard it that way. I remember a lot of my friends and family who have given up their licenses, you know, when they were teenagers and the boat wasn't ready. We're at a point right now, international talks are there. We are sovereign. There is so many things that a lot of people in America don't even understand because they weren't brought up understanding international politics. The discrimination, I feel that we're at a transitioning point. I don't think being the fact that you're not participating in what a lot of my friends call a fake state. I have ancestors that probably incorporated this county, but I also have ancestors that ruled country. So again, there is a lot of information that is just surfacing right now due to North Korea and other things that have been taking place that I feel there should be never a discrimination, even of people when kingdom does happen, because it was never a race-based country. So Hawaiian is a nationality, not an ethnicity, and our ethnicity does run through Kanaka Maoli, which is a lost tribe of Israel. So I mean, there's just a lot of
Thank you.
information.
I don't want to give you more time
Yeah,
than
sorry
what
about
I'm
that.
permitted
Yeah.
because all of you will have some some response. Mr. Brewer.
Well, certainly I empathize, sympathize, whatever, with that situation. My position on Hawaiian sovereignty and whatnot is that whatever the Hawaiians who get together, finally, I would love to see them get together and decide just what it is that they want. I would be wholeheartedly with them, and if that means completely a country again of Hawaii, and so that's my thoughts on this. Basically, what I would do in your particular question was I would assemble a citizens' action roundtable. We would sit down and we'd gather all the facts, face the truth, and take responsibility, and we'd fix it. That's my
Thank you.
Good.
answer.
Thank you. Now we come to Mr. Teruya, Terrence Teruya.
Yes, I've been doing some research on that, and unfortunately there is a following that there's a lot who wants to be on their own, and there's a lot who just want to keep it as it is right now. And unfortunately, as you start talking, tensions get high. So I haven't been able to see what the majority really is, because I may go to one meeting and the majority says, no, we want our own thing. And then I go to an even bigger meeting and they say that, no, we don't want to lose what we got. So I'm kind of torn. I honestly would say that I wouldn't know what to do in this instance, because the meetings seem to start off slowly, but voices get raised and there's a lot of disagreements. So I think that we all have to work together and come up with some kind of middle point. There's so many divided areas that needs to be discussed more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kim.
Yes, first of all, I agree with you on Native Hawaiians. I feel the same way that I lost my parents. So it's a powerlessness. So I want to tackle the points from fundamental point of view and as well as a practical side of view. What I see is that we are, a little harsh word, we may be angry at ourselves. So we got to work on ourselves. We've been mistreated, and that's the reason why we don't know where to start. But the thing is, we have to understand that we got to work on ourselves. That's the most priority that we have to tackle on first, so that we don't determine our destiny ourselves. And it's almost time up, so I'll stop now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kim. And Ernest Cavallo.
So as we all know, we actually do live in the Kingdom of Hawaii. So the first step as governor that I would do is I would create a new cabinet that is only Kanaka on it. So the Kanakas will have a say in everything we do on a daily basis. That's number one. Number two, as governor, I will do something the federal government has not done. They've actually apologized to the people of Hawaii. We'll go one step further. We'll apologize. And according to our kupunas, an apology is never an apology unless there's an action done. So on top of that apology, I would start the dismantling of the ceded lands to return the ceded lands back to the people of Hawaii so that they have a say in their nation. And that's what I would do, starting off.
Well, that's quite strong. Let's continue with that point, though, and let's address practicality. With the military in possession of, or not the military, but the U.S. government, the federal government, in possession of approximately 1/3 of all of the land areas in Hawaii, as a governor, practically, what would you do, could you do, to see that the military or the federal government begin to return lands back to Hawaii? And then how would it be distributed? Because we do have not only Native Hawaiians, but non-Native Hawaiians who are also part of Waiʻanae. What, you want to begin, and then we'll go back around the other way?
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, these lands do not belong to the federal government. They were stolen. So therefore, we need a strong governor in office who's going to stand up to the military and the federal government and says, listen, this is what needs to happen. This young man brought up a great point. I am very much for radio. Radio tanks need to come out. That whole area needs to come out and be reversed back to the people. And we start by that process. We have to sit down. We have to build bridges. This is going to take a lot of bridge talking. So this is why we want a cabinet within our government. We want an all Kanaka Maoli cabinet within that's going to have a say in how we're going to bridge and bring this to completion. And we can do this if we work together as a people, as a nationality, the Hawaiian nationality coming together as the Kanaka Maoli comes together to bring us together as one family like we were back during the Kingdom days.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kim?
Well, it's a little tricky question because we are going to run under the flag of a U.S. flag. So I understand. I agree with you. I totally understand it. But the thing is, it's a legality is there too, that we have to think how we're going to tackle this. But as I said, because this is a very complicated issue, right now we should work on ourselves. We got to improve our emotional health, and that's the first priority that we have to do, so that nobody can control our destiny. And that's what we have to do first. That's what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Teruya?
Currently, my opinion on that is that we need to work closely with our congressional delegation to see if somehow there can be something made where something that would be possible. Right now, I wouldn't know what would be the correct answer to answer this question because there are so much laws in place at this time that I would probably have to converse with someone in Congress to see what kind of options we do have. Currently, right now, as this process is going on, how is it going to be livable to stay here while we're waiting for this process to go on? With the Jones Act strangling our economy, I want to push for a bill that says that there will be no tax on unprepared food and prescription drugs to help make it a little bit more easier to live here. And as well as housing, I'm looking at there has to be better rules than staying 5 to 7 years. Affordable housing needs to be affordable housing all the time. So if you buy it at $300,000, if you sell it, you get $300,000. You don't make a profit.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Teruya. Mr. Brewer?
Okay, I speak with a military experience. I first came to Hawaii in 58, I think, and I was on a ship. Well, actually, I had a relative here, and they showed me all around. And I thought, well, maybe I'd like to live here since I grew up in the segregated South. And one of the reasons I joined the Navy was to get out, and get out of the segregated South. And so my last ship was the USS Kamehameha, a fleet ballistic missile submarine that could destroy one entire country if we were called to do so. I got out and became a peace activist. I've been doing that for 42 years now. And so, anyway, again, a Citizen Action Roundtable, we'll figure it out and we'll do it.
Okay, thank you. And Selena?
Yeah,
Back
so
up.
my slogan is Kina Ole, so just do the right thing, right, at the right time, for the right reason, with the right feeling, the first time, but no, it's got to be this time, because the first time I don't know what happened. But what I was thinking, for many years now, Lily Kala was working on a ceded land inventory back in the day. And Land and Power in Hawaii, the book will exactly, like, it'll just expose every politician we've ever had, any changes of lands that's ever had. And I have a really good friend that is waiting for that so that we can have an international land lawsuit against the United States. And when you have back taxes for like that many years, I think they'll have to leave their military base with us because they won't be able to take that. They don't have money to pay us. And if you folks are aware, we're not poor. The kingdom has gold more than the world's population has combined. And so for some reason, we think we need the federal government. And I'm not saying, I think a lot of the lands need to be reevaluated, their leases, what they're paying, if there's poison, how is it like public health and safety for our people, how is it on our resources. So I mean, from a governor's standpoint, that's the boundary and the areas I can work in, but as far as what we can do outside of the box is a lot more. So I think a little more. It's been a long 20 years of trying to, everybody's got a key. And he mentioned we're not getting together.
I think your bell rang.
Yeah, sorry.
But thank you very
I'm
much.
hoping we can all work together.
Again, there's so many issues that are being raised. What about the international law aspect of this particular question? The military properties report, sometimes we call it the MilPro report. And Mr. Brewer may remember that report. Many years ago, I don't recall any more recent military properties report or survey of what lands are contained here in is taken up in Hawaii. But do we really believe that the property that the military now hold are really necessary for the operation, or is it time to review that report and to see what can be scaled back again and returned back to Hawaii? We've had some general talk about base closures. Perhaps a year or 2 years ago. And yet, with notwithstanding the recommendation of the Pentagon that Pearl Harbor should be closed and they should move most of the ships to California. But somehow it seems that politics may have a hand in play at that area. If you were governor, would you try to see that we update the MilPro report and determine what properties are really needed in Hawaii by the military, and how would you advocate that the excess properties be returned back to Hawaii? Mr. Teruya, you want to begin with that response? No? That's an honest answer.
No.
Thank you. Well, let's begin with anyone else who would like to begin.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, I'll start then.
Go ahead.
Well, other than the emotional health issue, practically speaking, I want to improve our economy. We want to have we're going to boost our economy in balanced way, and we want to, as he talked about, the Jones Act. We want to talk with the federal government because it's about security of our state and nation. So it may hinder from our working on our economy. So we may have to boost our economy all different way. In terms of that, we wanted to negotiate with the federal government a little more. Like you talked about Pearl Harbor closure and stuff. If they want to use more, then if we can, like renegotiate, then we can probably negotiate once more and how we can build our economy better than before. really rely too much on the federal government in terms of the economy.
Okay, Mr. Kim, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to respond to that question? Jim? Mr.
Well,
Brewer?
the thing is, my feeling is that right now we just need to build our military down, period, and nationwide. And we need to go back to the United Nations, where we played a very good role after World War II. But and the thing is that we had people who wanted to keep the military and to take over economically countries all around the world, and we're doing it right now. And we made the rule that war starting was against international law. And the thing is that we've been starting wars for many, many years now, and we need to stop it. We need to go back to the United Nations because we're getting close to the end. I know from my job in the military, I didn't want, every time we went to battle stations, I did not want us to destroy the planet, and that's what would happen.
Okay, anyone else would like to?
So,
Selena?
yeah, so my concern about the military, last time I checked, I've been out of the loop. My son had an accident, and it was a pretty long break. But we had 116 or 18 military installations. Inouye told me, every time we sat down, it's like, oh, we don't need the location, the tech is up there, it could be anywhere, but I like to bring money to Hawaii because, it's jobs and whatnot. But we've come to a point where our home, and being so militarized, that it has caused so much damage, illness, poison, desecration. Every time they desecrate one of our bones, they're weakening our living descendants. We've got, you can go on and on, but as far as 118, and we got these little islands, I think that's a bit much. So I think automatic, that's something that needs to be re-looked at, and those leases and everything that goes on there, test the soil, do things like that, it just has to happen. It just has to happen. I'm sorry, go on and on. I can't get
The
to
mail
point.
just loves you.
Sorry.
Mr. Carvalho, you didn't have an opportunity.
Yeah. So as someone who served in the Air Force, I've never quite ever seen such a place that has so much military here. We are probably the most militarized zone in the world, the island of Oahu. The military must step back. But as we downsize the military outside of Hawaii, we must make sure at the same time that we're taking care of the economics of Hawaii, that our people aren't hurt. So we have to replace that. We have to replace that by food sustainability, making sure that we stop selling our agricultural lands, and that these lands that are returning back go back to the people of Hawaii properly. So we have to sit down and discuss how we're going to do this. But the downsizing of the military has to happen. There's no what's, ifs, and buts about it. We need to cleanse our lands of the poison that's been put into it. And we need to reinvent ourselves. And then we need to find an economic system to continue to make it work so that we all can live and without getting hurt.
Okay, Mr. Teruya, yes,
Okay,
we
yeah, the
skip
last
over-
answer. All right. Before we can, leave one life raft for another, we have to make sure that we can sustain ourselves. The only thing that I strongly believe is that the military has to stop live fire. With the electronics technology we have now, you don't have to shoot bullets or armaments into our mountains, where eventually it will be some kind of home, or it might be some kind of farm. Currently, right now, I don't know if anybody knows, but we use about 66 million gallons of water a day. And the water is not being put back fast enough. And as Oahu starts getting more and more populated, I'm afraid that I want to make sure that it stops here in Maui. I think it's almost too late. But all the other islands are still rather pristine. So I want to make sure that we preserve what we have. But before we let anything go, let's make sure we have another infrastructure in place to take away what we don't want anymore.
Okay,
Thank you.
I have a question. You know, most recently, our Hawaii has been devastated with Kilauea. Prior to that, we've had floods, whether it's the neighbor island or Oahu. And as a governor, you know, I'm wondering if there's more that can be done. If I recall, and I could be wrong, Poka, I know at one time we had a big fund, and it was called the Hurricane Fund. And that Hurricane Fund, after so many years of building up, I believe it went back into the general fund.
I remember that.
Now, that being the case, and you know, perhaps it's taxes, whatever the case, however that had derived from, you know, because we always looking outside, as we say, federal government. We need to stop leaning upon them and start building from within, bottom up. That be the case, do you think as a governor that's something to be considered, to have another fund where there's devastation like this when it occurs? Is it, whose responsibility is it? Is it the homeowner, the person who's going in devastation because they didn't have the appropriate kind of coverage, whether it be flood coverage, whether it be fire coverage, devastation? I'm just wondering, as a governor, what would be your perspective in how to address these kind of issues? You know, because someone else is saying, never mind. What would be your perspective, Mr. Torria?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're looking at him, but you're talking to me. Okay,
Mr. Torria,
no
what would be
problem.
your
I can be
perspective?
first on that. I remember paying for the hurricane fund, and when they stopped it, I said, "Where is my money?" Well, you know, we don't remember who gave into this fund, but then again, you sent the bill to my house every single month, so you must know that I put into the fund. But I believe that even though we create the fund, we have to make sure that people in the government don't steal from that fund. And that's the hardest thing, is when you have millions and millions of dollars, it's very tempting for someone to misappropriate the money. And finding out where it went is almost impossible because of the transparency that we have here currently right now. So I feel that, yes, you're right, we need to make a fund like that, but it needs to be transparent. So anytime anyone takes that money out to be used, it has to be documented where it went. Thank you.
Well, I agree with him, but as I said before, we got to boost our economy. I really want to go a positive way. Want to boost our economy, and so that we can raise our tax revenue more. So in doing that, I am thinking of bringing our manufacturing sector to Waiʻanae area, and then bringing the ferries back. That's very, very imperative right now, that we need to bring all those things back. And then if something, we need some operational money for ferries, then maybe we can allow gambling in the ferries to kind of, sustain for a while. But it is important that we want to bring the manufacturing sectors to Waiʻanae areas, so that I'm not for rail, but since it's already built, maybe we can use it for intra-island transportation of the goods. So that's what I'm thinking right now, and hopefully, but about the rail, we got to do the forensic audit first before we're going anywhere. So thank you.
So I'm all for creating a fund to help our people. We can no longer rely on the federal government for everything else. If we want to truly be independent, then we must start taking that first steps now by being independent and taking care of ourselves and not relying on the federal government. So I have no problem about that. Then secondly, we need to start going after those that are profiting over this. Who told these people that they could build this land in a zone 1, which they knew this was going to happen, so they can't pay mortgages, they can't pay anything. Now, so now we the people have to take care of this. They knew what was going to happen. So we have to make sure that these areas are never built on because they're not ready to be built on. And so that's the governor's responsibility, and from that point on, the county's responsibilities, and then we should be fining everyone who had a hand in that, from the real estate developers and all that, who sold these cheap lands to all these people to live there.
Thank you, Mr. Caballo. Selena?
Yeah, so accountability. I think accountability throughout is super important. I think leadership is oversight. I feel like our budget needs to be audited, our programs need to be reassessed. There are so many that are inefficient, they are obsolete, and there are people in our community who are doing it on their own, trying to get funding outside from every source they can to do things that need to happen. and including native intelligence with technology. So always working together. And I think that in this case, again, he made a great point. I mean, there is things that we allow and our gatekeepers are not doing their job, and we end up with sand erosion because you have hardening of shorelines that we don't even know how they allowed that. We've got illegal diversion of 300 streams on Maui. I mean, we've got issues with dirty streams. I mean, we're not taking care of our house, first of all. So when these things happen, it is our responsibility to have not allowed that to happen in the first place, and this wouldn't have happened. But to always have a safety net. That's where our money's come from. It's for a safety net. And yeah, okay. Bell again.
Mr. Brewer.
Well, definitely the governor should take responsibility for the state. If the counties aren't able to do it or whatnot, we have to find out what to do. But as a member of the Green Party, I want to say that everybody thinks that we're tree huggers and whatnot, but the thing is, we're not. We're a broad-based political party, and but the thing is that we are having a terrible problem with the climate. It's just going to get worse, and we need to not just think about what we're taking care of right now, but what's going to happen in a very short time. It's going on an exponential curve upward, and the thing is that who knows what's going to the weather's going to be like very soon. So we have to be cognizant of this and be proactive. Like whatever happened to odd and even license plates day? Whatever happened to that?
Thank you, Mr. Brewer.
Yeah.
Puka?
Okay. Your answers keep raising many more issues that we really need to talk about. Mr. Brewer, thank you very much, especially when you raise the issue of climate change, and we have this competition between questions of more housing as opposed to agricultural land and the need to preserve agricultural land. And statistics tells us that by, 2050, much of our people may be going hungry simply because we are not producing our own, and yet we continue to convert agriculture land for housing. Could each of you explain what your positions are, both with regards to how to prepare for climate change, how to prepare, how to do that balance between housing and agriculture? Both very important, but where do we put that balance? Mr. Kim, you want to begin?
Yes, the climate change. I agree with you, but the thing is, that's some people argue that it's not really a fact. So I rather want to prioritize the economy first. Of course, we have to have agriculture so that we could have enough food on our tables. So the reason why I want to bring the ferries back is because we can kind of have our agricultural land more available if we bring the ferries back. And in Oahu, maybe not enough, but maybe other islands, maybe possibly we can have there. And then we distribute our population too. That way we can even reduce the price of our housing there too. And a lot of things that we can promote through that. So we gotta boost our economy more in a balanced way. Thank you.
Okay. Who would like to answer that question next?
Well, I have no problem answering that question. So climate change is real, and it's going to happen. So what we need to do as governor, the first thing I'm going to do is call a conference among all of the oceanic countries to come together here in Honolulu to how we're going to deal with that. Because we have to deal with climate change now. Because if we don't, what's going to happen is our brothers and sisters all over Polynesia, as the water rises, are going to become immigrants. And they're going to become immigrants, and where are they going to go? So that's something we have to talk about today. Because if we don't discuss that, we're going to be in big trouble because there's going to be all these people all over the place with nowhere to go. And as far as agriculture goes, every single island needs to be producing for each of their own people. Each island must be self-sustainable. We should be producing 90% of our food here, not importing 90% of the food. By producing the food here, the cost goes down, saves our people, and helps out with affordable living.
Very
Yeah.
clear. Listen, Mr. Brewer, go
I'd
ahead.
like to say something. One of the things that we have here is I disagree on one point here, and that is we have to stop growth for growth's sake. Right now, we are growing ourselves into, we're going back to the Great Depression. The economy is going to collapse. I don't think that we should be doing more privatizing and growth for growth's sake. I think that if we have a true democracy where everybody's vote is equal, then we can have real democracy where we will stop growth for growth's sake. We will take care of our Ōlelo and whatnot. And this is what we have to do. We just cannot go on. We cannot go on, you know. And the thing is, things are going to collapse on the mainland really soon, or the continent. And
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Brewer.
like the continent. So yeah.
Selena.
So reclamation restoration, I feel strongly, and so do so many others. At one point we were 85% self-sufficient, we're maybe at 12 now. As far as the zoning, I mean, zoning laws are there, general plans there, all of these things are in place, yet they find a way. Right now, we can't even grow food on the lands we have because they're poison. So basically, reclaiming these lands from those that have been leasing it, if by chance we need to test the soil, they're not using it properly, we get under investigation, EIS, take care of the environmental impact statements, find out what we got, what's going on, and reclaim them. And then before we reclaim them, have them clean them, so that when they bring it back to us, it's how they took it. And put people and organizations working with all public, private, and non-profit sectors together, including outside. I have a Princess of Monaco that wants to help us clean our water. She's not very happy about how we run our budget, so she's going to have someone else be an ambassador for Hawaii to help us clean the bacteria levels in our. So we have outside help too. Just want to let you know that. It's not just
Thank you.
this.
Thank you all. Thank you all for this
And there is
very,
global warming.
very informative panel. I think, however, that it brings us to the end.
Yes,
Oh.
allow everyone their time in
Yes.
their closure. So we just want to remind you folks to please be mindful to allow yourselves that 1 minute closure. And so let's start with Mr. Brewer.
okay, I want to say
And
mahalo.
I'm sorry, work your way
Okay.
this way.
Sure, I want to say mahalo. Thank you very much. This is real democracy. This is grassroots. We got that's why the citizen action and roundtables are going to replace our legislature down there. These guys come in and fight the same fights over and over. They never solve anything, and so that means they get to come back next year and draw a salary. The thing is, if we solved a lot of these problems, that would be the thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer.
Oh, I got 30 more seconds? Okay, okay, like I say, and I want to talk about democracy. Abraham Lincoln said, government, and he did not say it with derision in his voice. He said government of the people. In other words, the rules that we go by and we make by the people, for the people. We don't have that. We have government of the people, by and for the big corporations.
Thank you very much again. Being mindful, we're down to 4 minutes. Go ahead,
I would
Mr.
just, I
Terrell.
would just like to say that I'm sure all of us would agree that Hawaii is a beautiful place to live. And if we could afford to live here with our family for the rest of our lives, we would fight for that. I want everyone this year to register and vote, but not because it's your right, but because it's your duty. So I want all of you to join me, and let's work to build a stronger and better Hawaii. Mahalo.
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Going back to my first statement, working on ourselves, we have a lot of problems, but the thing is the media got to change first. Journalists got to change first because their role is very important in our society. they usually do good jobs unless there exists any conflict of interest. And now I'm asking, just understanding their responsibilities as a journalist so that they could do the right job. And I understand the Hawaii, Hawaii is a paradise, natural paradise, but often we forget that we are part of the nature. And although if we are not perfect beings, but if we work on ourselves in harmony, we can make ourselves a lot happier and better, and we can make a true paradise. And this is my big dream. Thank you very much. Mahalo
Thank you,
nui.
Mr. Kim. Mr. Carvalho?
I want to thank you guys for having us here. I really do appreciate that. I want to remind the audience that you got to remember that Queen Liliuokalani and Crown Princess Kaiulani fought hard for all our Hawaiian nationals to have the right to vote, because they knew that one day that vote would overturn everything that had been done wrong, so that the heva that was done to us would turn into pono. So think about that. And if you haven't registered, go out and register on the day of voting or go into the early walk-ins. This is something that we need to do. So remember, when you come together as a group, we can overtake the government and bring the government back to the people. So remember, when you go out there and vote, to think in earnest, act in earnest, speak in earnest, and vote earnest.
Thank you. Selena?
So I would just like to thank you folks for making this opportunity possible for someone like me to just be like, I'm going to go run for governor. And they're like, yeah, with what money? But I appreciate this opportunity. And I think a lot of really good issues are raised. And a lot of our issues are long-standing, 20, 30 years. I'm stuck in litigation. Oh. Now they don't even ask what they want. They're just like, oh, you already know. So we're at a point where enforcement's important. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. If you get something that's hurting our reef, I don't care if corporate attorneys that we have maybe cannot compete our attorneys with their attorneys. If it's wrong, it's wrong. It's not good. So for me, it's just doing the right thing for the right reasons. And I think everyone feels the same way. And when you're in a leadership position, you need to get all your facts. You need to go on your fact-finding mission. You have to go on your field trips. You need to go to the source. Social media is wonderful. People can communicate while they're at work, can still go to forums live. So I just would like to just thank everyone and just say that I'm looking forward to whatever happens here. And we all love Hawaii and our people.
Mahalo nui
Mahalo.
loa. I had never known any of you in terms of your issues, and that you were candidates for governor. And this forum has been very telling, and I appreciate very much your sharing your views, although there may be some agreement or disagreements, but it has been a very honest, forthright presentation of each one of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
And I don't know if we're off the air already, but perhaps not. And you raised so many interesting issues. If only we had one-on-one or maybe another hour, we could really cover many of these very, very interesting explorations. And it seemed that you folks, as you listened, were willing to consider and even change your own views, hearing from one another.
Yeah, I was hoping more of like a debate, so they could jump in. Some of the issues that folks bringing up, I said I feel like I want to jump in, but this is forum, so I can't do it.
Right.
So.
And we did it intentionally as a forum because we don't want anyone to be aggressive. It's to inform our people to make a concise, informed decision. I hope you folks understand why it's considered a forum and not a debate.
Yeah, and one point that I want to make is that you brought a lot of good issues about the Native Hawaiians and the Waiʻanae issues. But the thing is, I think the question. I hope that the question could have been better if we have more balanced questions about the whole Hawaii, and so that we could discuss more about that side too. Then maybe next time we can probably.
If we had maybe 2 or 3 hours, we could balance
Exactly
it out.
so,
But
yeah.
these are the questions that are not asked
Yeah.
in the normal issues or debates, and somehow we need to express them, especially because we come from the Waiʻanae coast, And those are issues that are, because we are the largest Native Hawaiian population, and by percentage and by raw numbers as well. You know.
One thing I wanted to say is that I want to have everybody. I want to have a homecoming. Half of Native Hawaiians now live outside of Hawaii, and I want, if I'm going to be governor, before I'm out, we're going to have a homecoming, and they're going to be able to come back to affordable housing and to be able to live in their own aina.
Well, truly that is the hope, and we know because of the economy, it has caused our people to move away. And a lot of it has to do with housing, a lot of it has to do with jobs. We just don't have that here. And as governor, I'm hoping those are some kind of the implementations that will be considered, because we want to have our people here. They belong here. It's the land, you know, that we perpetuated. But because of all these things, our people have no option but to move out. Is it because of military? Is it because of tourism? I mean, is that our economy? Is it agriculture? You know?
It's a gentrification of an entire state, is what it is. We've got all this big money coming in here, driving
But thank
up.
you at this time.
Yeah.
We just need to just one again. Thank you very much for being part of our Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum.
Thank you very
Aloha.
much. Aloha e ahi, Hawaii, Kauko'okalani Wahilani at the beautiful studios of Ōlelo TV, which hosting the Waiʻanae, the 2018 Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum, here with my prestigious colleague, Nini Ao Simmons.
Aloha. Kauko'ohu and I are just super glad to be here. We're providing color commentary on the candidate forum that just preceded this segment. And it included candidates from the gubernatorial race for governor of the state of Hawaii. We had Ernest Carvalho, Dr. Richard Kim, Terrence Taruya, James Brewer, and Selena Blackwell.
And it was very maikai to have these candidates here to share them out, you know, and to also be ask questions from our moderators. Uncle Pokalai Nui as well as Tita Lokana Pua.
And I think for those of you who joined us already and listened to our earlier candidate forums for the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives, I think I heard a recurring theme with our candidates. One had to do with the military involvement in Hawaii, driving up affordable housing prices and rentals, as well as land contamination, and then the need for economic diversity.
Yes, and also to touch on the military, a lot of it appeared that all the candidates were in unison with downsizing the U.S. military in Hawaii. You know, so I found that very interesting as well.
Yeah, and I think candidate Carvalho also mentioned he acknowledged that the military presence is an economic driver in Hawaii, and that, you know, we would need to seek out something else to replace it, so that you know, those of our local families who are depending on Pearl Harbor shipyard positions, or who work in ancillary jobs on military bases, you know, would have alternative work too. So I thought that was good to offer a potential suggestion, but then to also have a solution for the problem of why we wouldn't just exit the U.S. military overnight.
Yes, and because there's a lot of housing that the U.S. military families occupy, and if so, you know, the downsizing of the U.S. military, that would open up. The assumption would be that would open up to a lot of housing for our local people. And I believe also candidate Terrence Taruya also had mentioned too, as governor, you know, he also wants to downsize the military, but also to, because it's an economic engine, to also replace it with something that can be viable for all citizens of Hawaii. So.
And I think it was candidate Taruya who said one of his platforms was the jet fuel spill in Red Hill. So, besides the depleted uranium at Pohakuloa on the Big Island, the big issue about the potential water table contamination at Red Hill with the gas tanks, the jet fuel tanks leaking, I think was good for him to bring up.
Yes, I was surprised at that he was the only candidate that actually, that was his first
Introduction.
yes, on his platform was, the spilling of the 27,000 gallons of jet fuel up at Red Hill. So, that was something, might cut you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think, for Dr. Kim, who is a licensed dentist, he talked about Hawaii as the melting pot, and that the ability for the many cultures and races that call Hawaii home right now should be a template for other parts of the United States. I think he advocated for remaining part of the United States and not delving too much into answering Pokalai Nui's questions about Native Hawaiian nationals. But I think Dr. Kim's viewpoint about Hawaii being a melting pot and a role model has certainly been echoed before, in the previous decades,
Yes.
and perhaps might kind of hide the racial tensions that actually go on in the local community here, especially when you have low-income housing and the different populations that comprise low-income housing
Right.
in the state right now.
So for myself, as well as my colleague Niniao, housing is very much a big issue. Food production, sustainability, finding things to think out of the box so that our people, we can become self-sustainable.
And I think that was candidate James Brewer, his mana'o from the Green Party in terms of food sovereignty, self-sustainability.
Yes, coming from a roundtable perspective, whatever that was,
Yes.
But yes.
Yeah.
But just thinking outside of the box, so getting back to this democratic process, if you haven't registered to vote, I implore you to please register to vote. Myself, for the last election was the first time that I registered to vote since 1986 when Governor Waiʻanae was running for governor, and that was the only reason why I got into this.
First Native Hawaiian governor
Yes.
for the state of Hawaii, territory of Hawaii, first Native Hawaiian governor in the United States. So
So that was the reason why I got into to register in 1986. Whatever, I took a long hiatus until the last election. So, like I quoted earlier, Queen Iliuokalani, our beloved queen, was quoted saying, "The voice of the people or the voice of God." So, make your voice known. Register. Come into this political process, even though,
you
whatever.
might be a national, or
Yes.
you might, be in opposition
You
to
can
the
do it under
United
duress.
States
You can do it
government.
under duress.
Right, and August 11th is the Hawaii State primary. This election, we'll have two big candidates running for governor. They were unable to make it today, but
Yes.
on behalf of the Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum, all candidates were invited to participate today, and so not everyone could make it and fit it into their schedule, but those candidates who did come, we're really grateful that you took the time to
Yes,
be with us
mahalo.
this evening.
And touching on what my Tita Niniao has just mentioned, so this is being the 2018 Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum, and running for governor, we have two from our moku. So that would be Andrew Tupola as well as Colleen Hanabusa. Both could not make it this evening.
A boat from the Leeward Coast.
Yes, both
And
from
so,
from the moku of Waiʻanae. So, I just very excited about change, and change cannot happen without the people. So I implore you, nakanaka o iwia me na poʻe Hawaii, who, if you have the koko, or if you don't, but you love this place we call home, Hawaii. So please
participate.
Yes. Yes.
I think coming up next, we have the candidate forum with our candidates for Lieutenant Governor.
Yes. So we have Dr. Josh Green, Marissa Kearns.
Jeremy Lowe, Paul Verbati, and Renee Ng.
Yes. So also being on there, I don't see candidate Iomoto Koko, Kim Koko, and who else was?
Oh, our mayor from Kauai.
Oh yes,
Bernard Carvalho.
Yes, he
Yeah.
could not make it.
Yeah.
However, they're going to be on the ballot, so you know.
Good for everybody to take this opportunity, not only to listen to tonight's forum, and we continue with our forum tomorrow night from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. where we'll cover the OHA races.
Interesting.
But that should be fun.
Yes.
But also other forums on regular TV, as well as you can catch it on your newspaper or news feed on Facebook. So just get educated, have an understanding of what the candidates represent, so that you're just not going in the ballot booth and picking A.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what my tita has also said too. So by watching this candidate forum tonight, you can kind of like gauge where these candidates are coming from. So they'll make your hypothesis or maybe your educated guess on who you're going to vote for. So I also want to do a nui ke aloha to Tita Kapua Kili'ikoa Kamai, who is the po'o of organizing the Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum. This is her 4th year. So nui ke
The
aloha.
4th election.
Yes. Nui ke aloha to Tita Kapua Kili'ikoa
Mahalo,
Kamai.
and all the volunteers.
All the volunteers
here tonight.
Yes, so nui ke aloha. And as well to our beautiful studios here locally, Ōlelo TV, to our cameraman Justin, right on Justin, for the great work, and everybody here. And just to be here, to be involved in this political process. Yamana'o, Tita.
I think, I always go back to the words of our congressional delegate, Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalaniana Ole, and his seeing the ability to vote and the use of the democratic process is important for Native Hawaiians in the early days of the territory. And for those of you who might not know, our territorial legislature was controlled by Native Hawaiians, the House and the Senate, as well as the county systems were created by Kuhio, and the districts along the lines of the Native Hawaiian ahupua'a. So the first Board of Supervisors or the first mayors, if you go look at your county buildings, you will see Native Hawaiians, friends, colleagues of Prince Kuhio who helped to bring the territory in the beginning of the 1900s, probably up until World War II, with great Native Hawaiian leadership.
Yes. Mahalo nui loa, Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalaniana Ole, as well as all our other Native Hawaiian representatives in this legislation. So mahalo nui.